Warning, what you are about to see as a miniature painter may shock you. Viewer beware. I played a game called Stranding, which has amazing graphics, a stellar story. When you're a fan of a game, you sort of want to have figures of the game, but this game sort of did like giving you a collectible toy green plastic men as characters that you see in the game, and it was like, I just had to have it. And the funny thing was, you couldn't. I mean, you could have it in the game, but you couldn't have it in real life. Fast forward to what we have today. What I have here in my hand is not an officially licensed product. Well, technically, it's the official licensed product, but I've repackaged, repainted it to make it look like green plastic army men. Why you want to do this? I don't really know. Why I want to share it is because I love plastic army men, and it sort of gave birth to my love for Warhammer and all tiny wargaming stuff. On the plus side, if you're also looking for a fast, quick way to get a project done, this might be the way to do it. Now, to start off, it was really like F with the instructions. Okay, not entirely. I did use some of the instructions, but I barely used any of the proper tools. For one, I hardly used the right clippers. You see, what I was going for here is the imperfection of a mold, the imperfection of how green plastic army men really looked. And I know I'm using very quite updated models, so there's not a lot of mold lines and imperfections already with this Warhammer kit, but you can always leave a bit of screw by just manually pulling out the bits and pieces. See, I told you it's a bit triggering. The next step was to be hella messy with the glue. I wanted to douse and maybe even leave some fingerprints from melted glue on my fingers onto the model, because I really wanted to make it look like ugly quick molds, because that's basically how army men back in the day looked. They were fast. You could see where the sprue would come in, you could see the mold lines, you would see not so much detail. And at this point, if I felt I could use some thinning cement, or to me a liquid cement, I was thinking if I overdid it by a little bit, I could actually dissolve or soften some of the sharper models we all crave. The next thing was to really not care, was to not give up. So like any imperfection, anything you were taught on how to build a model, I totally forgot. It was just combine, glue, slap. And in addition to that, I made sure I didn't even drill the barrels of these guys, just to make sure that the models really retained their imperfections, or whatever imperfections I could borrow from the sprue and leave on the model. Overall, as of the moment, the process was very freeing. I was coming from a little of a hobby burnout, and I think projects like these, fun projects with no pressure, no rules, they really help you create something without the guilt and more of just feeling good about having made something you really wanted to do. And this is by far the fastest paint job I've ever done in my entire life. Albeit, I actually took a bit longer than I normally did because I did paint more layers than I thought I would need. But basically, I just primed them all gray, and I used Armored Commodore's deep green water-based acrylic for this. That was literally the only paint I needed. Normally, this paint is a dream to work with because they're very thin. They don't need any watering down, and they apply on really well. But for this project, that's not what we needed. I made sure to put dollops of this paint into a dry palette and not even moisten my brush. I wanted to get a clump of paint from that dry palette and just leave it on thick. That way, we really muddied up the details, giving those soft edges that we're all too familiar with our army men. And after 1 to 2 coats to making sure everything was left not bare, I just went ahead with a straight up gloss prime. Overall, this was a fun, quirky, and weird project, and I really just wanted to do this because I wanted to pay an homage to my first love in like the miniature world, or the collecting world, if you may call it that. And I found it kind of nice where I could like go back to it using a current hobby that I'm so in love with, while also keeping in touch with video games, which I still love. So this was like a trifecta of 3 loves. Additionally, it's just still cool that I could find a way to get something from my backlog and sort of accomplish for a change. I love how all these tiny imperfections and how the sped up process that I did, and it sort of gives that tiny little bit of army men vibe, or plastic molded old school toy vibe. And if you can see here, you can actually see some of my army men that I really loved as a kid. And actually, apparently before, I loved customizing my toys before I even knew I did. And I just wanted to share this small project with you guys. This little quickie to you guys to maybe give you an idea to someone who's maybe not so feeling it in the hobby or trying to find an idea of what they might want to do with their extra backlog. Thank you guys for tuning in for even just for a short hot minute to support the channel. I appreciate you guys greatly. This has been Louis of Louis Loves Minis, reminding you to hobby every day to keep the spruce away.